everybody. We feel really honored to go for the finals and we're the pros. Yeah. And our topic is science is more important than humanities in our life. We approve with the following three reasons. Yeah. Science, first of all, science promotes our quality of life. Thanks to advances in science, we are able to cure a wide variety of diseases so far. For example, lifespans have increased and terrible diseases such as cholera can be cured. Also, with invention of useful technology like refrigerator and TV and the microphone which I'm using now, our quality of life is rapidly increasing. The second, we already have experienced the failure of humanities long time ago when it is Joseon Dynasty. Joseon Dynasty used Neo-Confucianism for educating and harmonizing people. It seemed to work to sustain for 500 years, but all of a sudden, the Joseon Dynasty ruined. Because we could not protect ourselves from modernized and developed country. So actually, we see that from 1800s, only technology bring us a development so far. The third, humanities are based on scientific thinking. Of course, the science is more based on black and white thinking and use probable evidence in a visual way. However, some of the reasoning process in both parts are pretty much the same. People believe humanity is starting to ask a question like who created us and do background research and construct a hypothesis and tested analysis of data and draw conclusion. All of the process is like the really same science does. Humanities may not have a direct correlation with science, but humanities without scientific thinking sounds like a fantasy and not persuasive at all. That's it.
Thank you, Prof. Any questions for clarification?
So what was the main point of the third point?
The third point is, without scientific thinking sounds like a fantasy. Like the humanities, the studies or whatever they're saying, it's all fantasy.
So what you're saying is that many humanities study are based on scientific thinking. If there is no scientific thinking, then how the humanity can be thrive? They're using the same method as science does.
Can you give us an example of humanities being a fantasy?
Because when we think about such things like literature, religions, and everything, that is all about seeking a reason, and it has to be more persuading for the people. And in order to gain their support, it has to have a scientific and logical thinking. Because if they do not believe what you're saying, then there is no point.
Are you saying that humanities lack logic?
No, not that lack of logic. If the humanity does not have a scientific thinking, then that's gonna be a lack of logic.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you. Now, Con, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies, gentlemen, judges, we argue that humanities is more important than science. First, humanities allow us to understand our world. Research into the human experience adds to the knowledge about our world. Through the work of humanities scholars, we learn about values of different cultures, about what goes into making a work of art, about how history is made. And these give us tools to imagine and build better future. So, thus we can avoid making the same mistakes. So, for example, universally, countries hate war after the devastation of war bombs. Second, if we only pursued all the technological values and became economically stable, we would of course be wealthy materialistically, but we will have to live a life so dreary with no humanity. ultimate goal in our lives lie not in seeking comfort or just physical comfort, but in pursuing truth, sense of achievement, pride, and etc. Last but not least, humanities prevent abuse of science. Science is so powerful nowadays. However, the prestige of science is being used not for beneficial purposes, but for immoral purposes. For example, there is gene manipulation. We're not against gene manipulation, but we want to say that we need humanities because it offers us the opportunities to think about those issues. Thank you.
Any questions or clarifications from the
Yeah, about the second statement, so could you tell me what's the main point? Why is it related to ultimate goal? You mean the science is related to ultimate goal, or?
I was saying that with the technological values that science can bring us, maybe we can be wealthy and maybe comfortable physically, but then if we don't have humanities, then we will not be able to be happy or be comfortable mentally or physically.
So you mentioned that ultimate goal is like the happiness and the faith of love,
I don't think
abstract thing,
I don't
right?
think that's the only thing we need in our lives, but nobody would disagree that it is an important part in our lives.
I didn't say we are not the disagree or whatever. I just want to clarify the thing. You think that for the ultimate goal is abstract thing is much more important, right?
Well, we do not necessarily agree that humanities is all abstract thing, and science is all a logical thing. I think that argument kind of gives the prejudice to, yes, the judge or all the audience.
Yeah, I think we are done for the presentation.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the rebuttals and rebuttal questions from Pro. Pro, you have 6 minutes.
Okay, so we want to emphasize the fact that we do not ignore the fact of humanity. We just emphasize science better. So you said there is some things more value about histories and arts and like other this kind of work from humanity. But what is the world trend nowadays is a science, because that's lead us to the future and make us to go to the another level.
So your question is?
So my question is like I just said, I know that humanity is important, but don't you think the world trend, the mainstream that we have to follow is the science?
Oh yeah, the mainstream you're talking about is the drone and the ISIS attack, using the modern technology, or nuclear bombs, or genetically modified organisms. Or what kind of trend are you specifically
I mean, the
referring
trend
to?
that we are using nowadays a smartphone, and we are living in a society which is very highly technology. And then you mentioned about IS, but the problem is,
ISIS.
yeah, ISIS, Islamic State, but there is a problem about humanity because there is no certain answer. That's why they keep fighting. For the science, there is always a certain answer, black and white. But when you seek about the humanity, there is no answer. Is there any answer in religion? No. Muslims think they are right, and people believing Christianity are thinking they are right. So what I'm saying is that sometimes humanity can trigger another argument, and controversies depend on the content.
Sorry, could you repeat the first part that you were sorry?
Liberty is that humanity does not solve the problem because there's no certain answer. It's not clear. Like for scientists, when they see the evidence, they are saying, oh yes, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But when you see people believing in a humanity, they never admit the fact that there is like another belief or something because there's no answer. They just keep going their way. That's why the fight is not ending.
That is very opposite definition of humanities. Well, the study of humanities is actually very much for the diversity, and well, I do not think that science itself alone can solve the problem as well. The arms race over the nuclear weapons between Soviet Union and the United States, how to solve? Did anyone win with more weapons or more developed weapons? No, it was solved because they talked. They talked over, and when there is a crisis, such as Cuban Missile Crisis, they talked. They chose to talk. They did not attack. Non-weapon was fired. Not missile was fired. It was purely talk, and then they could agree that even though they had different opinions, different political opinions, they can still choose not to attack each other or choose strong weapons against each other because they believe in humanities.
Okay, you say that they talk, but there is always a hidden agenda behind this. I think another reason why they made a compromise is that Russia knew that America is such a strong country. What even Russia was negotiating with a really weaker country, and Korea by the time was a really weaker country. And in that kind of environment and situations, that they are not going to make any compromise. So I think you say talk, but it's just easy to say. But there is always another selfishness and other hidden agenda behind of that. So I think that the reason why they talk is that because they knew the other parts, like America had a better, America had a strong power, which is based by the technology and army forces. So they did not want to make any more casualties, and it's because they know they can't make any profit out of that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Then why did U.S. agree not to fire missile to Russia?
Because they know what they have at each other. They saw what they have on behind.
So what I'm saying is, developed technology does not guarantee the winning. That means they don't want mutual destruction. They want to save lives. Isn't that the ultimate goal, to save lives, not to win?
Did you say value? Or
Ultimate goal.
Ultimate goal. Where people tend to think a human being is such a lovely, and we all think about humanitarian reason, but not everyone is like that. Some people are very selfish. They think about money. They think what they can get at the end.
I think that is exactly why we need humanities, because humanities set the standards, or specifically moral standards for human.
Yeah, it's a standard about human, though, but sometimes humanity is not about all good things. Look at about capitalism. Is there anything cares human being? There is not. Some kind of humanity study does not having such a warming heart, or the things you taught me.
When we delve into the study of economics, in the economics, we also try to find better ways.
Thank you, Pro. And Con, it's your time for rebuttals and rebuttal questions. You have 6 minutes.
So there's 3 points that we want to ask about. So the first one, you guys mentioned we have to move on to the next level. I understood the next level as development. But do we need development? Do we really need to go further and further into the garden? So, and how are we going to solve the problem of abuse of science if we keep just moving without thinking about moral standards or studying humanities? And second, of course, science makes us to live more comfortably, but then I don't think everything that science develops is not necessary in our lives. Smartphones, yes, they are very comfortable, but then we could also live without smartphones, and we could just live with the old phones that we had much before. And third, moreover, if we just pursue materials, and then we are no different from animals.
What's the third point? Sorry.
If we just pursue materialistic stuff, then we are no different from animals. We have to think.
Why do you think so? Is there any evidence to talk like that?
What do you mean?
Without smartphone or anything, we look like the animals. But
Without smartphones.
Okay, what's our second argument? That was
but without technology development, we like the animal.
I said with better technology, we can live better life, maybe more comfortably, but we can still live with the older phones.
But who would want to live with old phone? Because so many things in our life is related with technology. If you are turning back to your old phone, then you will lose every contact you have in a social life. Just see like how useful is that. You use that one for homework, you talk with your friends, you catch up with every news with a smartphone. Who wants to go back to the previous step? It's like, how many people in the world do make that choice?
Yeah, that's why I said we still need phones, but we don't really need better phones because we can
How do
still.
you know? How do you know? There's like so many studies going on about developing new phone. Like now there's a new technology coming on, not about like it's very so about sometimes a smartphone, but now we're talking about smart lens and like so many smart
Okay, so
devices.
who are accessible to this smartphones or like this technology, this?
Right, so it hasn't got come out yet because we are not at
No,
the
what I'm
stage
saying
yet.
is those are accessible to only certain people with certain incomes. As you mentioned, in
But
this
it's a
society of capitalism, only people with the money can accessible to this scientific stuff.
Yeah, but you find
So-
out. Okay, so
To increase quality of life with science, you need money, and that makes this poor people life more miserable. And to solve the problem of redistribution, there are world's efforts such as to decrease the inequality of health. There's WHO or World Bank or African Development Bank. Those efforts were not the result of scientific development.
okay, so you say the poor people will able to get a chance of getting a higher science, but I want to ask this audience that do you not have a smartphone? I when I have a smartphone, it was really expensive when it came out, but the price will be decreased. And people who is doing the business, they are not really targeting about the people who is really rich. They see something broaden. Like there gonna be some device that like other companies made the price down, and then we can still have the technology.
I also want to ask the audience, can't you live without smartphones? Couldn't you live without smartphones before? We can still make our livings.
I know, like they still make a living, but what we pursue about our life is just something more like highly valued, like something more convenience.
Yeah, I think we're really going around the same point. So I want to broaden our perspective. You have mentioned the
So
real.
it's our time to ask you questions.
I don't want to ask something. I just want to say that you have already mentioned that the humanities and like really love and faith and helping
you mentioned.
helping a poor people. Yeah, helping a poor people. You have said that. But I think we are in the crisis and development. So especially we are crisis in crops. So we don't have a food crisis. So I have read an article that 2020, so we are gonna risk on crops and we are gonna food crisis. So if we don't go further in technology, if we go cannot find the ultimate way to find the better crops, we cannot help to American and poor people.
That is not true because Monsanto alone can produce the food that can feed the whole world. And it was my time. I wanted to ask a question. So you said that Joseon Dynasty, we had like 500 years of peaceful era, but then the aggressors came, and then that proved that humanity lost. But then isn't it the Westerners and Japan's technology that brought the destruction of the peace in Korea? So that makes the science actually wrong. Science is not good. It brings down the peace.
Thank you very much. Now, we'll give you 1 minute to prepare for the closing statement. Remember, for the closing statement, speakers other than the first speaker should make the closing statement. Okay, now let's move on to the closing statement. Closing statement will be made by Khan. Khan, you have 1 minute.
I would like to say that science without humanity is a car without a driver. Ancient scientists were all philosophers. It means that to seek useful knowledge that are important to humanities were actually the role of the philosophers or the lawyers, or back then it belonged to humanities. And we would like to ask a question. What would our starving man want? Of course, food. There's rather an easy question. Now, what would he want after he was fed himself? We believe that you already know the answer to this question. So the quality of life does not always depend on the fancy technology. And although the other team would like to refer humanity as fuzzy rainbows with the cotton candy, it is not.
Khan, Pro, you have
Thank you for others coming to listen us. I just want to summarize our point. Science helped our life a lot and helped a lot of people living in poverty. If there's no science, how we would be able to help people living far away from us? Because of the development of technology, we was be able to do that. And another thing is we already learned what is the result of just following humanity long time ago from the history. We have to see furthermore, what's coming from the future. We have to anticipate, and then science is the key. That improves your life, it brings you to another level. That's what we pursue. The opponent just made a point, it's just following material is I remember. It's not, we are not following material. This kind of mind that we want to live a better life is our nature. We just want to make our evolutions in our life, and let's see how it goes. And thank you for listening for the every audience.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give a big hand for both teams today.